Yes. Welcome to the No Ideas Original Podcast featuring Shannon, Mr. Rob, and Zane. What's good, Rob? How you doing?
I'm good, bro. I'm feeling great, man. The weather's starting to change. It's starting to feel good up here. I'm starting to get to that spring fever. So
Yeah.
things are going well, man.
Speaking of spring fever, man, I think I got a cold or something that I had for the last couple of days that's kicking my butt.
Yeah, it probably is
Yeah,
because the temperature's been 70, 30. You know
yeah,
what I'm saying?
yeah.
Been up and down, up and down. So that can throw you off a little bit.
Yo, I had an eventful day, man. I had the plumber come out.
Yeah.
My sewage ejector in the house went, and anytime I call this plumbing company to come out, I always know for a fact, like yo, they gonna hit me in the head. So
You
ended
already,
up
yeah.
having to replace my sewage pump ejector. And then
Yeah.
the same day, the accountant calls and tells me what my tax situation is. So it's been an interesting day, but I'm
A
here.
little bumpy road today, son. That's all right.
Now, yeah,
You
I
get
wish there
through it.
was some ups. I wish there was some ups. This was the trajectory. It was all downhill today. But
Nose
you
down.
know what? Like, yo, I'm blessed and I'm fortunate enough to be in a position where it
There you
is what
go.
it is. I could
That's
get
right.
the pump fixed, and I could pay whatever my taxes are, and life will go on. But how about you, man? What you up to?
Um, just like I said, embarking on the weather changing. I'm ready to start my gardening. Um, had a nice talk with my brother-in-law, Dougie, from
Mhm.
914 Prince, and he's discussing with me some stuff coming up. So I'm looking more to acclimate myself into the world, so to speak, from an work standpoint. Um,
Okay. You
I
feel
want,
your health is good? You feeling like you're ready to get back out
yeah, I
there?
mean, I'm past the 6 month mark. I'm in my seventh month. Janelle and I talked about, take the year off, and
Mhm.
that's coming in August. So before you know, August will be here. So
Yeah.
I want to be kind of ahead of the curve. That when August is here, if something pops up, I can hit the road moving. You know what I'm saying? And I ain't
Yeah.
got to catch up too much.
Yo,
Can't,
we got a dope one tonight. Like I'm excited about this because
good old
this brother
Bronx
that
boy,
we got,
son.
yeah, this brother we got tonight, man. He embodies a lot of the things that I love. So we
Yeah.
got Ralph Roll pulling up. He gonna pull up and join us. We're gonna have a conversation. This brother's a master percussionist, musician, entrepreneur, Bronxite,
Bronx
uh,
site
jack
and
of
an
all trades, former
impeccable
soul
A-list,
restaurant.
greatest
Ralph Roll
cookies in the
joining us.
world.
What's
What's
up, man? How
going
you
on,
doing?
son?
What's up, gentlemen? How y'all doing, man? It's
Doing
good to
well,
be
man.
here with y'all.
Thank you, man. Thank you. I was telling Rob, I said, man, Mr. Roll is the most prompt person I've ever met in my life. I got on earlier to check the technology at like 2 o'clock, and he was on. And he was like, "Wait a minute, I gotta get to the other meeting." But I appreciate that, man.
Yeah, well, thank you. I've been grinding hard, and I popped on earlier today because I thought I knew I had a meeting with you, and I
Mhm.
actually saw the time and read it wrong,
Oh,
and it caused me to be 3 minutes late to my other meeting. But it was
oh,
all good, But
Good stuff.
I just when I saw you, I went, wait a minute, I think I'm in the wrong room right now. So, but
so
thank you for coming on and telling me because I probably would have sat there for about another 2, 3 more.
man, so we got a lot we want to talk to you about
Yes, sir.
tonight. We talk to you about growing up in the Bronx. We want to talk to you about being a musician. We want to talk to you, of course, about being an entrepreneur. So, but let's get started. Just tell us a little bit about where you grew up at in the Bronx and what it was like for you growing up in the Bronx. Because I'm from the Bronx also. Rob is from
Me
the
too.
Bronx. I'm originally from the South Bronx, born and raised 168th Street and Union Avenue. That's my old stomping grounds, and no matter where I've gone, I always still rep the Bronx to the day I die.
Yeah, and I moved around a little bit too, man. 156 St. Mary's Projects right there, Jackson Avenue. And then I moved up to the Co-op City area, Boston Road area, and that's really where I got my bones at up in that area. But
Okay, okay.
I'm full Bronx, the Bronx bred. It's my life, straight
You,
straight
you,
straight like
you,
that, Bronx
you
bred.
you know what's so funny, man? Because most of the people that I meet or have met from the Bronx, man, we have this undying dedication
Talk
to
about
our borough, and I think that's probably you know, throughout New York City, when you grew up somewhere, you know, you got brothers from Queens. It's like they just diehard Queens.
Mm-hmm.
But the Bronx, you know, you guys are a little bit younger than me. The Bronx always got a bad rap.
Always.
You know, even now when I'm in another country doing interviews, they are still talking about 1975 Bronx.
Oh,
Like,
the
are
Bronx is
we
burning.
like, yeah, I'm
Yeah.
serious. So, and, you know, and I very professionally and eloquently speak about my borough and its content in a way that is
Mhm.
always going to be a positive face for where we came up. You and I
That's right.
both know, or excuse me, all three of us know that if you grew up in the Bronx, you can do anything at all
Anything.
because of the level of energy and the things that we've gone through on the negative and positive side. So
Mm-hmm.
when I talk about the Bronx, I talk about the fact that we got one of the biggest botanical societies in America. I
Yep.
talk about the fact that we have one of the biggest zoological societies in America. I talk, you know, talk about the Yankees. You know,
That's right.
I talk about hip hop. I talk about things that people can immediately, you know,
Identify.
grab hold of and relate to,
Right.
because and many times more than most they go, oh, I didn't know that. So
Mm-hmm.
it
Right.
changes. It immediately changes, and then I'll talk about myself and the place I grew up. You
Mm.
know, because it's important that, you know, we give that big up to the Bronx as much as, you know, we are the voice of change because we are out there doing things to make things positive. You
Mm-hmm.
know,
That's right.
we are not part of any problems. We're part of the solutions, and that's something that I'm very proud of as a Bronxite. You know,
Right.
I grew up in Bronx River houses.
Bronx River House.
Um, yeah, me and Africa Bambaataa grew up in the same building, aka Lance
Okay.
Taylor.
I was gonna ask you,
Uh,
was you a Zulu Nation back then?
I was not in Zulu Nation. My mother would have broke both my legs and my arms if she would have, you know, because my mother was probably like your mother, strict.
Strict.
Go for it. Yep.
Okay, and anybody said, "Well, you're a mama's boy," I said, "Let me pull out my wallet and give you my platinum mama's boy card because I am a mama's boy. That's my mama,
That's
and
right.
that's the woman that I've always looked up to. She raised 4 kids by herself in Bronx River houses,
See that?
and I give her those props. Yes, so she would not have been comfortable with me running the Zulu Nation at
Mm.
all,
Right.
you
Right.
know. But the experience of growing up in a area that is one of the foregrounds for hip hop was kind of amazing to be able to talk about what I've actually seen
Right.
as a culture, as a music genre and a culture
Mm-hmm.
that I saw it. I literally was there to see these things go on.
Mm-hmm.
And it's kind of amazing that it is now a multi-billion dollar,
Yeah.
genre and operation, from clothing to music to dance to
Mm-hmm.
art, to so many different directions it's gone in, and then again, it's the Bronx.
You
Yeah.
know,
How?
being from the Bronx, it's always a true Bronx tale when you hear the stories of where we come from, because the Bronx is it's an imaginary place. Like, in order to live in the Bronx, you had to have an imagination and a great vision. You know what I
Right.
mean? That's one of the things I wanted to ask you about. You know,
Yes, sir.
what talk about vision and imagination and how important those words are and what they mean.
Oh, well, one of the things that I talk about, I have the distinct honor and pleasure and ability to teach master classes all around the world. One thing that I start with is where I came from, coming out of the Bronx, coming out of Bronx River, and I know that's a great topic that we'll probably keep coming back to. But vision and imagination is something that I equate directly with passion.
Mm.
Um,
That's right.
so many folks, as you know, that have become successful in things that people thought they would never be successful in, had a vision and an imagination, but they coupled it with their passion. And passion is such a strong definition of a spiritual word and a presence that with that you said something when I was in the backstage about getting into your gardening.
Yes,
And
sir.
I'm
You heard
like,
that.
yeah, of course. And I'm like, that's what I'm talking about right
Yes,
there.
sir. Yes, sir.
Okay. So having the imagination and the vision and the passion all coupled together is what builds um, ideas and entrepreneurs.
Mm.
Because passion, and I've said this many, many times, passion has no expiration date at all.
Mm. You can use it
Passion
when you
is
want to. You can use it when you want to at any time.
right, but passion will drive you to fuel your imagination and your vision because you know no matter what people say, and you know coming up the pressure of someone saying, "Man, what you mean you gardening, man? What you gardening?"
I
Man,
get that too.
let's go.
Hold on.
But
So
no,
you
but
you
this,
got to play basketball all these years. Now you growing tomatoes.
you see what I'm saying? So when I was coming up, I was fortunate enough to have the mother I had. She was very independent. She was the mother and the father in my house. So it was my older sister Yvette, my brother Howie, my sister Yvonne, and then me. And because my mother and all of our mothers, are you guys parents?
Yes.
Yes.
Okay, so you get it a
Yes.
1,000% what I'm about to say. I didn't know this as a kid, but when you become a parent, a mother or a father, you are in constant protection and build mode.
That's right.
Constant. Like when they don't even know you are,
Right.
you're in constant
You
and
planning.
protection always. That's just, you could be having a conversation with your child in their face like this, and they don't have a clue that you are not only protecting them, but you are planning something for their lives.
That's
Yeah.
right.
And I didn't know that. So my mother will come home from work, and sometimes you can see her just disappear into this place of thinking. Not only did she have a regular job, but she ran the tenant patrol, the
Mm.
tenant association. She ran the garden program,
See that?
Wow.
Shout
and
out to Rob Dukes, man.
she ran the summer youth program, and she was the crossing guard on the corner with her second job.
Wow.
She held Bronx River down.
Yeah.
Right. So my brother and I was just talking about a week ago, and something I didn't even know. He just told me this. My mother would have to post a note on our door to say, "Please don't come after 9 o'clock," because they wouldn't go to the rent office. They would come to my mother because they knew
Right.
that she would be the one to help out. So
Right.
she had that passion for the community. She had a passion for us, which allowed us as young people to have our own vision and imaginations to have it come full circle. Because without that person to look up to, I don't know where I would have been. I don't know because the allowance, like you've allowed your kids and I've allowed my child to
Right.
be a certain way and also to reel them in, has spawned their imagination and their vision because of our foundation of what we
Our
gave them.
involvement.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You-
And I didn't know, I didn't even think about any of this until I became a dad.
Yeah.
As a fact.
Speaking of passion, did you find your way into music because music was your passion, or you stumbled into it? And because there are many things that growing up I was passionate about or I enjoyed, but it wasn't my calling, and I knew it wasn't my calling, not because I wasn't good at it. It's just because I didn't desire to do it lifelong. So I'm just wondering, from your perspective with music, the first time you decided you was going to play the drums, did you say this is something I'm passionate about and something I want to do professionally?
You asked some amazing questions. I just need to say that right now.
Thank you.
Okay, so when I became a drummer, it was because I did everything my brother did. He was the example in my house the male figure in my house is my older brother Howard. So, and my brother Howie was always getting in something. So, and I, as a kid, I don't know that, and I didn't
Right.
know all these things until I got older. But my mother allowed him to have a drum set in our bedroom.
Nice.
So now I'm like, okay, wow, there's a drum set. My brother's playing drums. All the stuff he listened to growing up, he had a reel to reel. He would splice music. He had all the Motown,
Wow.
all the pop stuff he had on his reel to reel. But he would cut the commercials out and just have, I guess, his own mixtape. So watching him play, I'm like, Howie, can I play the drums? And he says, yeah, no, you can play. You're left-handed, so don't switch the drums around because that takes us, the room is too small. So the reason why I play open-handed is because he wouldn't let me switch the drums around. So I would sit down at the drums, and the image of having fun behind the drums was the first time that I saw the Beatles on the Ed Sullivan Show. So like I said, I'm a little bit older than you all. So I was a little kid. Hold on, that's my phone. Hold on. I was a little kid, and I saw Ringo doing his thing. So I just sat behind the drums and would imitate this smile that this man had because he just looked like he was enjoying himself so much. And I would just play, she loves you, yeah. Just play over and over. That's all I knew. And then one day I came home and the drums was gone.
Oh.
And I'm like, okay. So I asked my mother, I said, Mommy, do you know where the drums are? She said, don't ask me, ask your brother. So at the time, my brother had just started dating this girl that he was with every second of the day. So I knew if he wasn't home, he was at her house.
Yeah.
So I went and found him, and I'm like, hey, yo, Howie, what happened to the drums? He says, well, listen, I had to sell the drums because Michelle is pregnant, and I'm going to be a father, and Mommy put me out. I said, what happened to the drums? That's all I don't care about. I'm like,
I ain't worried about your life.
That's nice. Where's the drums?
Right, exactly. So he sold the drums, but the passion for playing had bit me by then. And I was like 9, 10 years old. But I wanted to play drums. But the silver lining to the story with my brother, just to let you know, they just celebrated their 50th wedding anniversary.
Oh, congratulations to him.
Congratulations, Big Howie.
Yeah. So just celebrated. It's not even a month ago. They just celebrated. So he stayed with her. That was honestly was his true love. So I can see why he lost his mind. He literally lost his mind. But there were people in my neighborhood who had drums, and I was friends with all of them, and they would let me play. So I would go to their house and I would play. And one of the biggest influences is the guy that lived on Bronx River Avenue in 1440. His name is Ricky Williams. Ricky Williams was about 6'4". He had a drum set, but that wasn't even his main instrument. His main instrument was organ. But he wouldn't let anybody else but me come up and watch him play drums. And this dude's grooves were the baddest out of everybody. And I would just want to absorb it. But what was amazing about Ricky is Ricky was blind. He'd been blind from a kid.
Ooh, wow.
And he played everything and still does. And he never let that be a problem for him. So I've actually incorporated what I learned from him in my master classes because it's an important attribute to learn about your senses and lack thereof. So I teach those things, but that's how the drums came about. It wasn't something that I just said I want to play drums. I actually got the bug from watching my brother and just following him.
In Headliner magazine, to kind of follow what you was just saying, I read where you were saying that there really is no right or wrong way to play an instrument. And I appreciate that. And we've talked to other musicians that have come on here about that I feel like that sometimes a lot of musicians get stuck in their head and they focus solely on mathematically, the musical elements mathematically, rather than going from feel. And I wonder, like, how do you, as a musician, to me, like some of the best music I've heard in a long time, I feel like it comes from a place that you could tell that the musician felt it. Like they may not have necessarily known, all right, play this key, do this, do that. You know, I envision them in the studio like, you know what I want to hear? I want you to get funky. I want you to do this. I want you to do that kind of thing. But why have musicians gone away from that feel and got so wrapped up in this theory element around, no, mathematically, this has to be here. Like as a person who's a fan of music across genres and hip hop, also like there are hip hop producers that produce music where you'd be like, wait a minute, where's the kick at? Where's the hi-hat? What's going on here? What's this, that, or whatever? And it sounds wonderful. So why are we so boxed into mathematically how music should sound?
Back in the 70s, you could go to any borough, and if you're talking synonymously about musicians in New York City, but this is actually this is a national event that took place. back in the 70s, many of the live houses that musicians could shed in closed down. They just
Okay.
real estate changed. They sold the buildings, not realizing that you're actually shutting down a culture.
Right.
These building owners just said, okay, it's not a club anymore. It's now a 99-cent store. It's not, it's not the round table anymore. It's now a pizza shop.
Right.
It's not cars off the corner anymore.
Right. Yeah.
You know what I mean? So,
demographics changing.
and the introduction of electronics.
Right.
So what started to happen and what we're experiencing was the large influx of musicians that played in church and in clubs. Now the club scene is gone. You can't shed anymore because there's nowhere to shed. They're buying electronics and they're starting to play at home, that they're not doing the studying of the history of what
Right.
made music.
Right.
Here's my proof of that. I can name right now 3 groups that have come along and changed the face of American music. D'Angelo, okay, Bruno Mars,
Right. I was gonna ask that.
and Tony.
How about that? Raphael Sadiq.
Yeah, I love Raphael Sadiq. I think he's an underrated musician.
But to answer your question, why do you love Raphael Sadiq? Why do I love Raphael Sadiq? Why do I love Tony? Why do I love Bruno Mars? I love all of these. Say it again. I'm sorry.
For the feel and the vibe of when they're singing. That's right.
They have the question that you ask is, why is this thing become so technical? It's not necessarily the fault of the music. It's the fault of the evolution of music that is causing people not to understand where they've come from so much, as opposed to being in the moment with the equipment that they have, not really studying the instrument from a heartfelt or a spiritual standpoint. Is why you're getting what you're getting. The majority of the musicians that were successful then, before we were born, and the majority of musicians that were successful now that we really love and appreciate, will all tell you 99% of them, they played out of church.
Right.
And then they went to clubs. And they shut in the clubs because they wasn't supposed to be playing secular music
in that church.
So now all of the musicians that you get playing behind the biggest artists in the world, Rihanna, D'Angelo, on down the line, are all church musicians. So they're producing different than the musicians that you're referring to. So in my opinion, and I hope I don't get in trouble for it, but the life of the music got sucked out, not by fault of the producer or the writer, but just because the evolution of the market changed.
Right.
Sure.
And it's funny you asked that question, Shaq, because I was going to ask him the same thing. How did he feel? What has changed most sonically about music then to now? Because I just like we talked about the vibe, the feeling. When you mentioned Raphael Sadiq and D'Angelo, I know I'm about to feel good. I know whatever song they're gonna sing is gonna put me in the mood. I don't even get in the mood sometimes with music that I hear. Not that it's bad, but it doesn't pull the strings.
Yeah,
like
because
pull the strings. Yeah,
because what those songs and we're kind of not even you, young man, but I'm part of a generation where there was an explosion of so many music styles and genres all at the same time.
Yes,
I don't know what year you were born.
I'm 72. I tell you proud. I'm 72.
Okay,
baby.
72. So during that time is when music started to change as to all the things that I said. But all of the things sonically that we listen to now, because of modern technology, the better EQing, the better processing, the better compression, the better all of that brings the music to a bigger place where when I first started out, it was 5 guys in the studio playing instruments.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? So that's what it was. So now, fast forward, I go and I'm playing. I did a track with Biggie. I'm the drummer on Player Hater. And the reason why that track became popular in the hip hop world, because it was a natural, organic song with musicians playing.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
The reason why Bruno Mars took over the world is because he gave us the organic feel that you're talking about. Again,
Yeah.
you know, these are all lessons that young people can learn from. But the beauty of it all is that we do have all of these different directions that people like, as long as we have it and it's there. Because I love what Bruno Mars does. Some people just go, man, he's just copying someone. Yeah, we all copy. Now Rogers said it best. The way how people learn moving forward in life is you copy other people.
Mhm.
You copy the things that you respect, whether it's good, bad, or indifferent. It's respectful to you. So
Right.
something negative is respectful to that person. If you get what I'm saying,
Yes, sir.
like somebody might be doing gangster rap, but some dude out there is not respecting that, and now he's copying this person to make it happen. So the art of copying is only getting you to a point that you can now take that and do it and make it into your thing.
Found on it, yeah.
You know, Jeff Porcaro is a drummer who used to play with Toto. Jeff Porcaro played on one of the biggest songs ever, a song called Rosanna.
Mhm.
He passed away suddenly, but in a YouTube video, Jeff Porcaro talks about how he came up with the beat for Rosanna. Everybody knows the song, Rosanna, Rosanna.
Mhm.
It's been used on different records, but he
Yeah.
talks about, I got a little bit from Bernard Purdy, I got a little bit from this drummer, and I respect that because he's telling you, I copied these guys, but
Yeah.
then I gave it my own thing.
Yeah.
You know
Paying
what I mean?
homage.
Yeah, paying homage.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Yeah,
So if
paying-
you pay homage, even if the music is no bass line but it's funky, you know, just pay homage to where you got it from. Just let people know, even if it's original. Say this is something original. Like D'Angelo came with some original stuff, and everybody started copying him. Erykah Badu, India.Arie, you know, Music Soul Child, everybody.
yeah.
But you know, they pay homage to D'Angelo. So
Yeah.
That's right, man.
How'd you end up linking up with Nile Rodgers?
oh,
And what's it like playing for him?
And
Playing with him.
let me interject. I don't mean to cut your wisdom, Sean. Thank you for good times. Thank you for the free. Thank you for dance, dance, dance.
Yeah.
Thank you for everybody dance. And the reason why is because I think my mom's might be looking, but I knew when my mother was in a good mood.
You hear them songs around the house.
And that's how I learned to hustle at 7 years old, bro.
man.
Tell me, son.
You hear them songs around the house, or you hear
Yeah,
them?
yo. So
Yeah, it's when I first heard Chic, when I first heard the group, I was in a roller skating rink on Jerome Avenue. There used to be a roller skating rink up on the second floor, I believe. And the song "Le Freak" comes on. I never heard it before, but all of a sudden, the rink floor got packed.
yeah.
Packed. So I asked this dude, I don't know who he was, but I said, yo, who is this? He said, man, that's Chic. That song is called Freak Out. I said, Freak Out. I said, I never heard that. Well, the truth is, the song is called "The Freak," but he called it "Freak Out" because that's the first thing. Oh, freak! That's what they hear. So I started getting into Chic's music, and I loved everything that Bernard Edwards and Nile Rodgers were doing, and Tony Thompson, because that was the foundation of the Chic sound. Was Tony Thompson, Bernard Edwards, and Nile Rodgers. And then over the years, I just kept loving what Chic was doing. And then they kind of disbanded and started doing their own thing. And then I heard that there was an audition for Chic. This is long before I got in the band. So this is going back, I would say, 30 years.
Wow.
So I'm like, man, I got to get in there because, you know, Tony wasn't there anymore. And then he had passed away. Well, there's a drummer named Omar Hakim. I don't know if you ever heard of Omar Hakim, but he's a very famous drummer that was already poised for the job, but they let everyone know in the city that Chic is coming back together. So it was kind of publicity stunt / you know, we're auditioning.
Advertising.
Right, yeah. So they get back together. They're touring. Omar stays in the band for 12 years. I'm now doing Showtime at the Apollo. And I get a phone call from a drummer named Nathaniel Townsley. I'm at my daughter's school at a play, and I never answer my phone. Like if it's on vibrate, I won't pick it up. That's just rude. But I saw who called me, And I know the only reason why he was calling me because he was looking for somebody to do a job for him. Because it wasn't like a social call. I mean, that we're cool, but if he's calling me, it's for work. So I go out to the lobby and what's up? He says, yo, I'm playing with Sheik, but I can't do a gig. Can you do it for me? And I knew even if I had a gig, I was going to sub my gig to get the shit. I knew that. So he tells me what's going on. He says he's doing something with Joe Zawinul, which is a big fusion artist. So can you do the gig? And I'm like, yeah, I could do the gig. So I get the tapes. It was Chic Live at Montrose Jazz Festival. Then my style of when I get a gig, I listen to what they send me and I listen to the originals. I always do that. Okay. Then I write out my notations. I make my own charts because one of the things that I learned from working with Ray Chu at the Apollo is that you need to come ready and you need to be ready all the time.
Right.
So if they call a song, let's get to it.
Right.
So that, big up to Ray Chu. So I wrote up my stuff. I get a call. Now wants to hear me in the studio. So we got to do a quick studio before you go do this gig. So I'm like, okay. So we go downtown to 25th Street, and it's just me, the bass player, and then Nile comes in. And I'm like, oh, snap, Nile Rodgers. So he comes in, he sets up. Hey, how you doing? Really nice guy. He says, okay, let's take it from the medley. I go through my pages like, okay, let's go. We hit it. We're in the medley. 2.5 songs in, he stops and says, oh, okay, and starts packing up his guitar. And I'm now looking at him like, what did I do wrong? Like, what happened? So I said, excuse me, is everything cool? He said, no, you sound great. I'll see you in Switzerland. And that was it. So we get over to Switzerland. I play the show. And then the singer comes to me and says, Now wants to know if you want the gig. Wow. And the first thing out of my mouth was, is this Nathaniel Townsend's gig? Because I'm not trying to take nobody's gig. That's not how I get down.
Yeah,
they said, no, it's not his gig. Now had been trying out different drummers to see who he wanted for the spot. And he really likes your sound. And that was 15 years ago. I always try to remember about how old my daughter is. So that was 15 years ago when I started working with Nile Rodgers. And it was, I got to tell you, Nile is not only one of the nicest people you ever want to meet. He's probably one of the smartest people I've ever been around.
Wow.
And he's straight from the heart.
Right.
Good people. He's a good guy. He's very kind.
I was looking at some of the stuff that he wrote. I didn't realize he wrote like a virgin.
Yeah, he actually now produced some of the songs that we didn't know that he did, and I am a victim of that as well. He did like a virgin. He did
I'm Coming Out, right?
Material Girl. He did I'm Coming Out. I mean, there's so many major songs that were now sampled in hip hop that he's responsible. Either him and Bernard or him. Yeah. And one of the big ones is Let's Dance by David Bowie. Yeah, exactly. The song is fire. And I'm reading his book. I'm in Japan on tour with another group, taking a break. He allowed me to take a break from the group. And I'm reading a chapter by him and David Bowie. And I'm saying, I didn't even know that he had anything to do with Let's Dance. So I call him on the phone right there. I say, yo, you produced Let's Dance. He started laughing. I said, yo, we got to put the song in the show, man. This song is so dope. He said, well, listen, if you learn the song, we'll put it in the show. I'm like, what are you talking about? Me learn the song. He said, no, if you sing the song, we'll put it in the show. I'm like, that's not what I meant. So I kind of ended up talking. I talked myself into a situation. So I sing that song in our show. But overall, I got to say, working with Nile Rodgers is a very beautiful place.
And you mentioned Ray Chu too. I was going to ask you about that. You always hear Ray Chu and the crew.
Yeah, that was a name that I penned for the band when we first started with Showtime at the Apollo, and working with Ray. Ray has been in the business a long time, from the time he was a kid. Actually, Ray started his professional career as a teenager playing with Melba Moore. Melba Moore actually pulled him out of school to go on the road.
Wow.
But this guy is one of the most accomplished composers and producers in the world. He has produced events for Carnegie Hall, for Lincoln Center. He was the musical director for American Idol. He's now the musical director for Dancing with the Stars. He was the musical director
Really?
for, yeah. He's if you Google Ray Chu, you'll see. But working at the Apollo with Ray, it was like what I would call, okay. So we get bumped up from doing the Wednesdays to do the TV show. Okay. Sometimes you got to be careful what you wish for because you just might get it.
No,
so,
you will get it.
Right. So we get the show. I didn't know. And I think when he found out, he was like, okay, we got this. They do the entire season for Showtime at the Apollo in 4 days. 4 days. So that means we would get there literally at 6 o'clock in the morning and do an entire, first we rehearse with the amateurs, right? Then we got to run downstairs so we could rehearse for camera blocking. And then we got to go back upstairs to finish the amateurs that didn't make it from out of town while people are sitting up there eating. And then we run and we grab something to eat. We change our clothes. We run down to be on camera, finish at 1 o'clock in the morning. And now you got to be back on set again at 6 in the morning.
Wow.
So we would do 4 shows a day.
Talk about accelerate.
Joe, that's what we was in the trenches. So that experience has allowed me the opportunity to get in front of other people and not worry because I know I literally survived working that gig because that's a hard gig. It's a really, really hard gig to have.
How did you land that gig at the Apollo?
I got called to sub for the great Buddy Williams.
Okay.
Now, the reason why I say the great Buddy Williams, because if you Google the name Buddy Williams, you'll see that man's discography. I was a fan of Buddy Williams since I was a kid. And every time I would turn over a record, I would be frustrated because I didn't know who he was. I'm like, every record I turn over, Buddy Williams on it. And years later, now I am friends with this man. And I say that in a very humbling way. Because every time I think about the fact that I'm friends with Buddy Williams, I'm always like, I'm friends with freaking Buddy Williams. Like, he's so dope. It's ridiculous. But I got to call this up for him. And when I came, Buddy works all the time. Buddy's either doing Broadway. He was the drummer with all the recordings for Luther Vandross. He's dope. So I get there. It's a 4-piece band. I get on the drums. I'm a quick learn. I read. I taught myself how to read as a kid. So any musicians out there, don't slouch on reading. Teach yourself how to read music. I get behind the drums. They set me up a microphone. I handle one of the harmonies. I get a call after, and Ray says, "Do you want to be in the band?" And once again, I'm like, "That's Buddy Williams' gig." He said, "Listen, Buddy's busy, and I need somebody who can sing. You can sing. Buddy's my man. Everything's gonna be okay." And that's how I got the gig at the Apollo. Most of the gigs that I've gotten in my life wasn't that I was first called. And I've always accepted that as the way of my life. I've never been like, man, ain't nobody calling me first. I've never felt like that. I felt like when I get in there, I will show them my value. And if they choose to use me further on, then that's it. But I'm not jumping up and down mad because they might have called somebody else that wasn't available. And then they called me. That first chair position took many decades. And I'm fine with that, as long as I was sitting behind the drums doing what I love to do.
Man, never change your phone number. Opportunity definitely calls for you. Never change that number.
What was it like playing your first time in the Apollo?
It was, as you could probably guess, it was extremely emotional. This is a stage that I sat as a young man with my sister, very young, not even young man, young boy. I couldn't have been no older than 9 years old. And I'm walking down 125th Street with my sister, and I see all of these names on the marquee. It's like Joe Simon, the Unifics, and then it says the Jackson 5. And I'm like, I don't know the Jackson 5. Well, they got a gospel group. I thought for some reason that the Jackson 5 was a gospel group. So at that time, when you went to the Apollo on the weekends, they had a show, they had a movie, they had cartoons, and then they had another show. That was the Saturday and Sunday setup. So we get there, we're getting ready for the second show. The cartoons are on, and I'm sitting stage left about 10 rows back with my sister and her friend Wanda, and they introduced this new group called the Jackson Five. And out comes these five dudes that I literally, my life changed at that moment. I'm like,
wow, you bear witness to that.
I got to do that. I want to be on stage. Like Michael Jackson at that age was more phenomenal than I've ever seen anybody at any age.
Right.
He commanded the stage at freaking 10, 11 years old.
You're a natural, man.
Unbelievable. Just, and if you look at some of you've seen the tapes of him like singing James Brown.
Yeah.
And you just kind of go, how is this little kid, like, how's he channeling?
Right, how's he so fluid?
Right. But it's just, he's just one of those phenoms like D'Angelo.
Right.
Like D'Angelo, the same exact thing. When I first played with D'Angelo, when he sat down to play, we were jamming one time on It's Your Thing, Ozzy Brothers, just jamming.
Mm.
And the placement of his hands on what he was doing, I looked at this kid like, you've been here before.
Mm.
You cannot have that kind of feel at that age unless you've done this some other life.
Right.
You know, and that's why he's such a phenom to so many people, because when he plays, it just comes from a natural, beautiful place of just groove. Right. And that's when that's why when I got on stage at the Apollo, that's why I first met D'Angelo. He did Amateur Night.
Mm.
And then next thing I'm on his album and then playing for him, and it was kind of crazy. But the first time I walked in that Apollo stage, I almost cried, man. I got choked up big time because Ella Fitzgerald stood here.
Yeah.
Joe Tex stood here. Percy Sledge stood here.
Cool.
You know, Stevie Wonder stood here. I mean, you know what I'm saying?
Yes, sir.
It's like it's you get that
out of body experience, man. It's a true, and let's just harp it back onto the Bronx. When you come from the Bronx, and and that happens, come on, man. You can't make it up.
No, it was, and I never took that experience and that relationship for granted ever. You know, I still to this day, it's just a place that means the world to me that I had the opportunity. You know, and I'm very thankful, you know, that I got it.
Yeah. So, switching gears to Soul Snacks, created by you, by recipes from your grandmother. How important was it for you to bring Soul Snacks to fruition?
The baking part of my life started at a very young age. As I mentioned to you before, my brother Howie was a big influence in my life, but so was my grandmother and my mother. My grandmother used to live with my aunt Gloria, my mother's sister. And when we were little, we would go over there, and me and my cousin Vincent were the two youngest boys. Vincent was a year younger than me. We're little kids, Grampy's in the house. You know, it's just a beautiful thing. And my grandmother would bake. And what the job that me and Vincent had being the youngest, and usually being the only two boys there, was the bowl. You just said it. She'd give us that bowl. She would sit us on, where they still had them, she would sit us on the telephone books because we were too small to sit at the table. And she would hand us the bowl, and we would go in on that bowl like you wouldn't believe. That bowl would be,
you would clean it, boy.
You didn't have to wash it. So, like all of us, there's a certain part of food and family that conjures up these emotions and memories that you never ever forget. And that's every family all around the world. It doesn't matter where you come from, what ethnic background you come from. Food and family is just connected.
It's a ritual.
So, yeah, it is. Absolutely. So the smells, the love at the table, all of that stuff just kept in me. And I wanted to learn more. I wanted to bake more. So she taught me how to bake. She had chocolate chip and oatmeal raisin recipes. Okay. Then my mother also baked. I would watch her. And going back to the projects, I was a nerdy kid that was smart. So I got skipped from 7th to 9th grade. And that was a blemish. because I used to get teased like you wouldn't believe because I was in the SP class.
Wow.
So, so meeting girls was not something that I readily could just walk up like my friends and just talk. So my rap was I would bake something. I'd bake some. I'd give them some cookies, like if I saw, hey, how you doing? Look, this is something I got, and they go, oh my god, that's so good.
You was an early sugar daddy, huh?
I'm keeping that. So I kept it up. I kept up the baking. Years after my grandmother passed away in '76, and my mother passed away in '83, and now I'm heavy into doing production and playing, and I would just bake. And sometimes I would just surprise my friends and just bake some cookies and give them to them. But in the early '90s, I met my girlfriend from working at the Apollo, and when we moved in together, and holidays came around, we wanted to give out gifts. So we tried to do it financially, but it just didn't happen. So I said, why don't we just bake some cookies and send it out to everybody? So we baked the cookies, sent it out to friends, sent it out to family. Everybody got back, thank you. These are really great. You should start a business. And that's how we ended up starting the business. Now, as for fun, we had no name for the cookies. So I said, listen, we're from the ghetto. Let's just call them ghetto cookies. My girlfriend grew up. My girlfriend, she grew up in the projects down in on the east side on 114th.
Okay.
And I grew up in Bronx River, and she graduated. She had a full ride at Juilliard, so she's a Juilliard graduate. So
nice.
So yeah, so ghetto cookies to me, the name. The reason why I love the name is because us folks that come from the ghetto, we get a bad rap all the time.
All the time.
So the fact that she's a Juilliard graduate and I'm playing at the Apollo, I wanted to show what quality comes out of the ghetto.
That's right.
And I love the name Ghetto Cookies. But now I called Melba from Melba's Restaurant, who I was doing an open mic at Sylvia's. She's cousins with Sylvia's Restaurant people. Mm-hmm. And I say, Mel, I got this idea. I want to sell cookies. I want to bring them to the open mic. Do you think it's cool? She says, yeah, you could do it. So I wasn't expecting a yes at that moment, but I'm glad I got it because now I got to get this together. So I go to my computer, and I'm actually going to post this at one point. But I made a picture of my building, and I put all these different colors because that's when I grew up. My building had all races of people.
Right.
Bad label. They had a rainbow over the top, and it said "Ghetto Cookies made with heart, soul, and lots of pride." I printed it out. I cut it out. I put school glue on it.
Elmer's.
Put it on a brown paper bag. Put the cookies in a sandwich bag. Put the bag inside. Took Scotch tape. Taped the bag, and I took about 20 of those bags down to Sylvia's to sell with some samples. We get down there. The host is a girl named Shelby. You might know her as Shelby J. She's the singer. Used to sing with Prince and with D'Angelo.
Okay.
She was the host for the night. So she announces the cookies. We give out the samples, a little 25 bags or so we have. We sell them for $5 each. And there was a guy at the bar from YSB magazine. And Melba's talking to him. No, he works at the Apollo, and then he's tasting the cookies. So he says to me, I'd love to do an article on you about the cookies. And I tell him, I say, listen, my girlfriend she's my partner. She's from Juilliard, and she grew up in the projects too. So he's like, oh, this is a great story. So he says, what number can you give me? Because I didn't have a website, and I didn't want to give my home number. Yeah. So I called my sister, and I said, can I use your pager number? So she gave me her pager number with the PIN number. And when the article came out, that's the number people had. Right. I didn't think we was going to get a whole lot of calls. Wow. First day the article comes out in the magazine, people are getting it. 5 calls. Next day, she says, get a pen, you got 10 calls. Next day, get a pen, you got 25 calls. Wow. So now my little project apartment oven ain't working no more. So I'm trying to figure out, okay, I need to supply these people.
Yeah.
What do I do? So my friend across the street, Artie, and his brother Patrice lived in the brownstone, and the mother, one floor was vacant. So I told Patrice, the younger brother, I said, Patrice, ask your mother if I can rent the space because I got this thing going on. I'm trying to get it to grow. And he looked at me. He said, "I'm not asking her nothing. You know how strict she is. You go ask her." So I'm like, so I go. I said, "Miss Durant, this is what's going on. I got all these orders, and I got to gut your kitchen and take out the sink and take out your oven, and I got to put in a convection oven. I got to put in a ventilation system and a 3-tub sink." And she heard my whole thing, and she sat there silent for about 10 seconds, which was an eternity. And she looked at me. And she said, "Okay, you can do it."
Yeah.
And then that was my first facility, and that's how the company got started. Then my girlfriend left me, and I had to restart the company. There's a whole lot in the middle there, but I condensed all of that.
Sometimes that's what you need to jumpstart some good to happen, man. Something a little tragedy.
Wait a minute. Is that why you end up having to change the name?
To be honest with you, I wanted to keep the name what it was, but when I spoke to my attorney, he said your partner left. She signed off. She doesn't want to be. She even moved. She lives in Switzerland now. When she said she was leaving, she wasn't playing.
She wasn't playing.
No. So he said, just change the name. So I thought about it, and it took a while for me to come up with the name Soul Snacks. But to me, Soul Snacks encompassed not only what I was doing as far as the cookies, but also as far as music.
Right.
You know, and yeah. So that's how it ended up being the name Soul Snacks.
Man, you got an A-list of support and great reviews, man. I seen Bette Midler. I was like, nah, come on, son.
Yeah.
Bette Midler's eating them cookies. Them cookies is good.
I was playing with Niles. She does this thing called she has a charity called, and she does an event called a Halloween. Right. It's like she mixes Halloween with the hula. I don't know, but it's a costume party.
Right.
And my calling card for anybody, any entrepreneurs out there, my calling card was to have my cookies wherever I went. So when I went down there, I had the cookies. Somehow they ended up in her dressing room. She came out of her dressing room and wanted to know who had these cookies. And everybody pointed to me. And she said, "These are amazing. I love these cookies." She says, "I'm going to get your information because the holidays are coming. And I'm going to make sure that I use these as holiday gifts." And she did. And it was very nice of her to do that. So I've had the support over the years from Nile Rodgers supporting me, to all of my band members and all of my friends and family, you know. So again, to you entrepreneurs out there that are listening, your first line of sales is going to be your friends and family. That's the first line.
Yeah, I was going to say, man, the cookies, that recipe must be magic, because, you know, sometimes people won't even get past the presentation. If they don't think the presentation ain't right, they ain't even going to give you a shot. But the fact that they surpassed the presentation and tasted the cookies, I'm sure your packaging probably got better real quick after that.
I had no choice but to get it better.
Which cookies are grandma's recipe? Or all of them?
No. What I've learned over the years in baking is to take the base of what we started with as a formula, because baking and cooking is science and mathematics.
There you go.
Anybody out there who is into baking, they understand exactly what I just said. Mm-hmm. You are a farmer, brother. You know it's all about the science of what you put in the ground and how
soil. Right. That's right.
It's a science. It's all science.
That's it.
So the basis of the chocolate chip cookie and the oatmeal raisin cookie is how I ended up creating the sweet potato cookie,
the Miami
raisin, the Georgia oatmeal raisin, the chunked up chocolate walnut. We have a lemon love cookie, and the sweet potato is our biggest seller. And for years, I wanted to do this other cookie that I said no one's ever done, and we finally got it. Now, my biggest critic and the taste tester is my daughter.
Absolutely.
And that girl is critical, and she gets on my nerves because she's like this. If me and my wife, she's my partner. Me and my wife come up with something, and we'll bring it to her. She's the first stop. This is exactly what she does. We'll give it to her, and we're literally nervous giving stuff to our own kid. That's how we're like this, looking at her. She'll take a bite, and if she doesn't like it, she'll go just like this. No. And that's it. No explanation. Just no. Like, we go back in the lab. We try it again. We on bated breath. You know that show, The Weakest Link?
Yes, sir. Yeah.
You are the weakest link. Goodbye. That's how we feel. Right. That's how we feel. So we finally came up with something that we're going to launch. We have a cornbread cookie.
Cornbread.
That's
We're
a
about to do
no-brainer.
the nutrition.
How about that?
Yeah,
I never even
no,
heard of
no one's ever had it, and I've been wanting to do this for a long time. And finally, we had the time to sit down and actually construct a cornbread cookie. And when I tell you it's good, it's good. It's real good.
Yeah.
that. Wow,
What's
man.
the, what's the most difficult lesson you learned being an entrepreneur?
The most difficult lesson. Um, I got to say that I've learned not to look at lessons as being something difficult. And the reason why I say that is after the passing of my mother and literally going through severe depression that I didn't know I was depressed for almost 10 years and coming out of it, I came out of it looking at every negative situation and learning how to find the lesson in it. And the reason why I'm saying this to you is because this is the honest to God truth. I know that everyone in this world deals with different levels of pain and heartache. But the thing that I've learned in life is to take every single thing that has happened to you that is negative and search for something good in it.
Right.
What is good in it? And I'm going to give you one that's going to make you laugh, and then I'll explain the situation with my mother. I got robbed in broad daylight on 3rd Avenue.
149th Street?
Yes, sir. Broad daylight.
By the
dude
Wiz?
No, it was by, what was that shoe store that used to be right around the corner?
Floor
Right
Shine.
off- Thank you. Thank you.
Fred
Floor
Michael?
Dude, I got robbed. You see, I can talk to y'all real. This is great. I got robbed in broad daylight. Me and my boy Aaron, a dude stopped us and pulled the knife out on us. And we was young. He could see that we was just young kids. He pulled the knife out on us. And if you've ever been in a situation like that, you feel immediately violated.
Yeah, yo. Yeah, you do.
Like you feel violated, you feel vulnerable, you feel all of these things. Like you feel, it makes you feel weak. Like what
Defenseless.
you feel like you did something wrong to make that happen. And that's how I felt. So after my mother passed away, and after those situations just compounding in your head, like why did this happen? A lot of people that go through trauma end up trying to equate it with their fault. Then it was their fault. It was something they did. So when my mother passed, she died of cancer, and it was painful. And I didn't know cancer was painful. I didn't know. I thought cancer was just something you died from.
Mm-hmm.
And the fact that she, as I told you, she was so instrumental in the community started taking a nosedive. And I was like, life is not like I visioned it to be. And I went through hell for a long time. So anytime there's just to answer the question, it took 10 years to get over that. And I was still playing drums. I was still out there doing my thing, but no one knew secretly.
Internally, right.
What you're dealing with.
Right. And this is why I'm so proud of people now in our communities that are now talking about depression and mental health
Yes, sir.
openly, because we all go through it.
Yes,
But
sir.
the African American community has looked at that as being a tarnish or a blemish.
Yep.
That our fathers who went through whatever they were going through was actually dealing with forms of depression and PTSD that they wouldn't confront from a medical standpoint because they thought it was a blemish on who they were as a man.
Right.
And that's just my feeling about it. So after dealing with the whole situation with my mother, I've learned to take every situation that is negative and find the lesson in it. So
Right.
the lesson that I learned from that day finally was that, okay, they took my money, they took my wallet, but I did get home with the same amount of holes in my body that I left home with. And I got another day to get this thing right.
Yeah.
Hold on, this thing is about to. Okay, I didn't realize my computer was unplugged. So to answer your question, I exercise my thinking not to think as anything as a hardship. But the hardest thing that did happen is when my girlfriend left and I had to shut my business down. because it was my passion to want to, do these cookies, but I couldn't be in two places at the same time. And it just so happens that when I met my wife, we started the business back again the same way. My first client, full circle, was Melba in her restaurant.
How about that?
Yeah.
So do you take these life lessons and these hardships? Do you bring that and transfer that into your master class?
Oh, absolutely.
Because your master class goes from Tokyo to Berlin back to New York.
Yeah.
So I can imagine with those, what's it like in those creative environments? Because y'all don't just talk about music.
The majority of my master class is not focused around my playing. I hold my master classes globally. I've done them, fortunately, I've done them all over the world.
Yes, sir.
But I'm bringing the experiences of what I've grown up with at home in the Bronx to kids in Belfast, to kids in Ghana, to young and old people, because the goal is not to sit there and play tricks on my drums and show them how bad I am,
Right.
but to get them to focus and see themselves in a better light through my experience. So I talk about different things, and what I expound on the most are the 5 P's, which is passion, placement, performance, and purity.
And purity,
Yeah, I left one out. Yeah,
passion, power, placement, performance,
left out power.
And
Yeah,
purity.
So after the situation from dealing with my mother is when I actually put those affirmations, if you will, together for myself to have a foundation of something to build on and move forward with. That anyone could use in any form of life. It doesn't just have to be a musician.
That's right.
The reason why I start with passion is because, brothers, as you know, passion is why we're sitting here right now. This is a show that you put together because you were passionate about wanting to get messages and information out to people. And that I could go on about it, but the master classes are more of a motivation than a performance. The performance to me is the commercial. The speaking part is the importance.
It's the important, right? It's the meat and potato.
Yeah.
You're a musician that has had the opportunity to travel the world many times over.
Yes.
Why was it significant to put Soul Snacks in the community that you grew up in?
Y'all are Bronx guys, and that goes.
Good question, Shy. Yeah.
Dude, first of all, if there was a question award, you gonna win the question awards. Just when you get up and get it, don't slap nobody.
That's a fact.
So I still live in the Bronx. I was born and raised in the Bronx. I've been asked many times, why do you stay in the Bronx? And I get a little insulted by that question. It's like, my answer is always the same. Why not?
Right.
Okay. I came back to the Bronx. I had a place in upstate New York. And when my daughter was born, I came back to the Bronx to educate her.
Okay. Right.
Because in upstate New York didn't have the environment that made sense to her forward motion.
Look at that shot.
So,
we were just talking about that.
Had that conversation before you came on.
Yeah. So she's, my child she's in Howard University now. She's a wonderful person.
God bless.
I love her to death. Just like anybody's kid, I want to kill every now and then, but she's still my kid.
Right.
But the reason why I stay in the Bronx is because we are the people to save this borough and big up this borough and strengthen this borough through not only our experiences but through our forward motion. So for me, having my bakery in the Bronx and having my restaurant in the Bronx is all about letting people know that this is the strength of our community.
That's right.
And also to grow people's lives moving forward. I have a 1,250 square foot factory on 134th Street in the Bronx between Locust and Walnut. We are now moving to a 2,200 square foot facility where Spofford House used to be.
They develop in that area over there.
They are.
Yeah. Okay. So just a little bit of Spofford Detention Center history. Spofford Youth Detention Center,
Yes, sir.
where Mike Tyson was closed down by the city, state, federal government, and Amnesty International because they said it was crimes against humanity against kids. It was putting kids in solitary confinement for long periods of time, things of that sort. So I got a phone call from a very incredible gentleman named Paul Lipson, who said, "Do you want to be part of a think tank for the space with Spofford?" And I told him yes. So the meetings were held at the Banknote Building, and we just went in with ideas, and I had a ton of them. And I got a phone call and said, believe it or not, our think tank won, because there were quite a few of them, won the bid. They liked our ideas. So now Spofford Center is now called the Peninsula, and it is a place for affordable housing as well as space for small businesses, affordable space for small business. Because of politics, we lost it, and then it came back.
Wow.
But in my new space, I am not only building a gluten-free, vegan certified area, but our classic area, and then we are putting a culinary arts school on the space.
It's very nice.
My partner is a gentleman that I'd love for you guys to Google. His name is Bill Yasses, Yosses. Now, the reason I want you to Google Bill Yasses is because, he's become, in my eyes, him and some of the other people that I've met through him, he's become a bit of a rock star to me. And the reason why is because Bill was the pastry chef for the Obamas and also for the Bush family. He has a TV show on Hulu called Baker's Choice.
Really?
With either Tia or Tamara, one of the twins, is the co-host. He also has a foundation called One World, One Kitchen. And this is when he became the rock star to me. Because One World, One Kitchen is a foundation that was put together for the sole purpose of feeding the entire planet and people in developing countries.
Very nice.
So my company donated $25,000 to his company for the purpose of getting money directly to the farmers in Ghana. That we source, all of us, or many of us, source our cacao, our chocolate from where these farmers that have these farms don't usually get the money.
Sources, yeah.
I mean, it's so minuscule. So he just came back from Africa. So that's why I call him a rock star, because the man practices what he preaches. He's the real deal.
And to have a direct line to your product like that, that's powerful.
It's a big deal because you and I, we all know that the way that we take care of our communities is by taking care of our communities. It's not something, right? It's not something to just talk about. It's something to be about. And I'm not, trust me, I do not have a soapbox somewhere yelling and screaming about what I think I'm going to do. I just very quietly just get it done.
Do it, yeah.
Just quiet. I don't want credit. Just let me get it done. Just let me open the school. Let me change some generations and some families. Let me do this because I was given the opportunity. I could tell y'all was given the opportunity. And so many others don't have that because they might not have had the parents we had.
Mm-hmm.
Right.
So how do we change that? We come in and we mentor and we teach and we just pass our wisdom on to these folks out here, young and old, to let them see that I'm not just saying this, I'm doing this.
Right.
I'm not just going to say, yeah, you need to get off that grass because you're going to make, no, listen. Yo, brother, let me teach you about that grass. Come here. You know what I'm saying? Let me teach you about these tomatoes I'm about to make. So
exactly.
So that's that whole circle of life thing that I just, believed in and why I just don't look at anything as being a negative. You got to find the good in everything or it'll eat you alive. And you'll back yourself into a corner and build your own walls. This is one of the things I talk about masterclass. Don't be your own obstacle. Get out of your own way. We got enough stuff to deal with out here in these streets. Why be your own obstacle?
Yeah, I appreciate what you just said in terms of I think our outreach in the communities. I think that what's happened is that a lot of people they're engaged in outreach, but they're also engaged in outreach for a look, right? They want to get noticed. They want the publicity that's associated with the outreach. And what a lot of times people don't realize is that there are many people that are out in the community doing the work, but they're not seeking to get the props. They don't need somebody patting them on the back. They don't need the publicity associated with it. So I tell people all the time, there are many people, that many places we go into buildings that have been built with endowments of people that you don't even know who built this building, who funded this building or whatever it is. And they've done it because whatever the cause were, they were extremely excited or passionate about, but they didn't feel necessary to get on Instagram and take a picture in front of it and say, hey, this is my new building that I just bought because this is how I feel about research for cancer. And I think sometimes like a lot of people in our community sadly get wrapped up into that. So I'm happy to hear that, you're very much in the mindset of doing rather than talking about it, because I also believe that, like, you were saying with this podcast, we started it out of our passion. We didn't sit down and have 50 million strategic planning meetings about this is what we want to do. This is how we want to do it. No, we said, you know what? We have these ideas. We're going to get in front of a camera. And as we've gone over the years now, we've been doing it for 2 years. We've grown. We've gotten better in terms of the questions that we ask. We've gotten better in terms of our production values. We've gotten better in terms of, I think, just knowing what to expect when we get on here and have these conversations. And none of that would have happened if we wouldn't have gotten out of our own way. We'd have been bogged down in the planning stage forever. So to me, a lot of it is about action, just going out and doing something. I wanted to ask you also in terms of buying, like, to me, it's a no-brainer to have this in the community and how it can be beneficial to the community. But I don't know if everybody in the community has that same level of awareness. So how do you go about getting community buy-in? How do you get people through the doors to say, you know what, this could be an employment opportunity, or this could be an educational opportunity? What's your outreach like to embrace the community and get them in on it?
To be honest with you, that is a very tough thing. One thing that I don't ever get a chance to talk about, and never have actually in an interview, but I feel like I can, talk about it here.
Yes, sir.
The business model for slavery is alive and well.
Of course. Let's just pause. Let's just pause. Let that sink in real quick, man. I'm gonna let the elders speak. I'm not even gonna say.
We have to realize that in order for our communities to strive, not just survive, because we're surviving, but to strive, we have to recirculate our dollars in our communities.
Right.
Okay. And there's ways that we can actually, with the introduction of the internet, there's ways that we can now do that, because the community is not just the Bronx anymore. The community is the entire United States, because we have to let people know this is where, if you want these communities to survive, if you want to spend your money on stuff, look for these vendors, support these vendors, let them, they've gone out and tried to bring you something, then try to support them.
Right.
There is a app that you might not know about, and I hope that you could get this brother on your show. There's an app called Eat Okra. That's the name of the app, Eat Okra. The app is a one-stop for all of the businesses that have registered on this platform for Black food businesses across America.
Wow.
Yeah. It's an amazing idea. I think if he had more people that knew about it, it would be incredible, which means that you can search the app, find the food, go to Uber Eats once you found that restaurant on Eat Okra, and order your food. It's just an informational site.
Right.
You know what I mean? But what I'm saying, we have, as a people, seen it in full color, what happened with Black Wall Street. And we've been very upset about Black Wall Street. But that wasn't the first time that happened. That's
Right.
happened before. It's just that, like with Rosa Parks, who was an icon, that wasn't the first time that someone did that. But she was the one to get the credit, and we're
Yeah.
thankful for that. But there were other Black Wall Streets that were burned to the ground before that. So even when the people got out of the mindset of slavery and started to build their own communities, someone just, and then all it is jealousy, decided, I don't want them to have that. But now, because of social media, it's an impossibility almost to do a Black Wall Street and tear people down like that.
Right.
You understand?
Yeah.
And it's in the same way that I told my daughter, you have the keys to the castle every single time you pick up your cell phone. And she's looked at me like I was crazy. And I said, no, any information you want is right at the tips of your finger.
Yeah.
It's on your iPad, it's on your Galaxy, it's on your computer. That's the keys to the castle. When I was a kid before the internet, if I wanted to learn more than my local library, I had to get on the train and go down to Lincoln Center Library. Where now Lincoln Center and the entire galaxy and universe is right here in my so what I'm saying is we have to first understand that we don't tear each other down. That's the big one. If you come into my place and you don't like a cookie, don't give me a 1 star. Call me
and tell me what I need to do better.
Thank
Yeah.
you.
I'm
Simple.
looking for suggestions. That's the perfect way to segue into that.
Simple.
And what's dope about that and what you're doing, because I wanted to ask you, talk about your grandma Leola a little bit, because she came up in a time in the 20s and 30s where we were thriving that way. We were working together in the community. You spoke of Black Wall Street, and there are other places here in the nation that had that camaraderie amongst each other. And I thought it'd be cool if you didn't mind sharing, with your grandmother coming from Ocala, Georgia, to move to Miami, then migrate to Harlem at a time when creativity was thriving and we were able to live our culture, which transcended into us, yourself, myself, where we had hip hop, we had jams, we had all these creative ideas that spawned into the world we have now. I think it's important that we get that vibe back.
Leola, Grampy, as we call her, Gramps, it was either Gramps or Grampy, was a woman of not too many words. She wasn't someone that was, most of the times when I heard my grandmother talk, she was getting to the point of something.
Straight to the
or she would be singing a gospel hymn.
Right.
My most vivid memories of my grandmother is either her in the kitchen or her taking a nap, snoring, laying on her side, with WWRL playing in the background. She always cut it on when it was gospel time. That was her show.
Right.
A very religious woman. Also raised her children in a very strict household.
Right.
She had a lot of wisdom, just like many of our grandparents do, because they've seen a lot.
Mm-hmm.
So, from what I know, and me being the youngest, most of the information I got from my sisters and my brother.
Right.
Yeah, she moved from Ocala, Georgia. She was married and raised her kids in Miami. And when they got old enough, the word on the street was that, and this is when that northern migration happened with African Americans. Because word on the street was that you can make money and get a job up north. The more north you went, so once you got past Virginia and you hit Pennsylvania and you hit all the other states up that way,
right,
there was opportunity up there. There was less racism,
right?
So you can see that progression in other communities that have come to America. The Jamaican community that would come in, someone would come in, pass the word down that you need to get up here because I just got a job and this is how much it's paying. And they go, what?
That's a fact.
And before you know it, it's the whole community. So my grandmother came up north with my family, and then she moved up here with my mother, and then she eventually moved in with my aunt.
Right.
And they all settled not too far away from each other. and then as they moved from Harlem, Bronx River houses opened, and the affordability of Bronx River houses and public housing for most of our families
That's right.
was that legitimate stepping stone from a impoverished situation, if you will. I'm not talking about spiritually impoverished, but the fact that there was, wasn't a lot of money that we moved into. I mean, you moved into public housing, you got free light and gas, and you got a 3-bedroom apartment, and you paid under $100 a month. That was a chance for all families, because when I came up, there's a reason why that first logo had the rainbow and all the colors, because it was Italians, there were Jewish people, there were Spanish people, all in the same place, because the opportunity was in public housing. My brother has a theory as to why they call it the projects. And yeah, my brother goes into this whole deep thing.
We gotta get Howie on here. We gotta get Howie.
Dude, Howie's a trip. My brother's a trip. But her journey in bringing her kids, she always tried to keep the family together. Like most, I'm telling you the same story in template that you could probably tell me the same story in template about your grandparents.
It sounds like a Bronx story for real.
Yeah. So she was a very strong woman. My brother talks about her with emotion every time he speaks about Grampy, because she was the one that told him, when she met a couple of his girlfriends before, and she was like my daughter. Nah. So when she met Michelle, she said to him, "That's gonna be your wife, right there. That's gonna be your wife." And she was right. They stayed together. They're still together. And the thing about it, the love that they have is so crazy, because they're always laughing and enjoying each other. It's bananas to just watch the two of them together. But she was a Miss Grampy Leola was a very powerful lady that didn't have a lot to say, but when she said it, you made sure that you listened.
She made a statement. She definitely made a statement on you, because you carried her tradition through, and you're doing so much with your life, bro. I mean, you touched all 4 corners, all the people that you work with. You're humble pie, man. I could talk to you all day, bro. I feel like I need to get your number to chat at you. What's up,
brother? Trust me, I would be honored. Because I can learn some stuff from you about growing. I'll come up there in a minute, put my hands in that soil, man.
Get you some peppers, man. Get you some peppers and cucumbers, man.
Oh, man, at one point you had your restaurant in the Bronx, also, right? Are there any plans to bring back the restaurant?
So yes, we opened up the restaurant on my mother's birthday in 2019, August 17th. We opened to a big audience. It was doing well. You know, bumping into each other, learning about the restaurant business. And then COVID hit. And you and I and everyone else could see Fauci is a New Yorker. When he started, he's from Bensonhurst. He's from Brooklyn. But when he was talking, I'm looking in Fauci's face going, somebody's telling him to say that. He's not telling the truth. I could see it. You're a New Yorker. You can see. I'm looking going, I'm telling my wife, I'm like, no, somebody's shutting him up. Look at him. And I was right. He finally came out and started saying what he was told to say.
Right.
So because of that and this COVID thing, and I'm in the restaurant business, me and my wife was like, we don't know if this is going to kill people or whatever, but we need to close. We need to close until they give us some definitive answers as to what's going on and what we can do, because this is all happening really fast.
Yes,
so
sir.
we closed down, and it was painful. And we didn't think we was going to be able to open, and we just opened the restaurant. We thought it's not going to happen. We don't have the money to refinance food. The first PPP came around. You know who got that money?
Yep.
We didn't get that money, and was like, okay, what are we gonna do? So in the, like I had mentioned, in the thinking of reinvention, I decided, okay, we got to do something. So I put together a proposal. I came up with an idea, and I put together a proposal, and I just went out on a limb, and I sent it to Chase Bank.
Mm.
It wasn't a financial proposal. It was a proposal about serving the first responders with cookies as a thank you from Chase and the Soul Snacks Cookie Company. And they read the proposal. And about 3 months after I sent it to them, they called me and said, we really like what you have. And then the second round for PPP came. And I filled out, because they didn't give you an index number that you could just file and all the papers pop up again.
Yeah.
You had to start from scratch. My wife always says, I don't know how you have that persistent thing in you, but you're doing this again. I sat up for hours putting the stuff back in. It's like, it's got to get done. It's got to get done. And then Chase hits me up and says, we have something that I think you'd like. We're going to put you in our Chase machine where you bake for our company, and the managers and the presidents and vice presidents can send the cookies out to employees.
Dope.
Yeah. So I'm telling you all this because don't let anybody tell you what you can't do.
Right.
Nobody. I don't care who it is. If that should give you strength.
Yeah.
If somebody comes to you and tell you, nah, man, y'all a podcast? Man, let's go watch the game, man. Y'all,
Yeah.
you'd be like, no, I'll tell you what, I'm gonna get back with you. Just let me do my thing. And then you'll be glad that you did.
You made
because
that decision. Right.
Success is not how much money you make, it's in finishing the thought.
Mm-hmm.
The first time I sold a cookie down to Sylvia's, I was successful. That's how I see it.
Yep.
The residuals of that success could be monetary gain. But the fact that you guys are successful here proves what I'm saying.
Yeah.
It doesn't matter if you got 1 million people watching you or 2, you're successful because you're here and you created this platform.
Yeah.
So that is that other part about what you said about how can we as a community move forward, is stop looking at success as a financial gain.
Right.
But about finishing the thought. That's how I feel.
I like that.
It's like you've been in some of our meetings behind the scenes based on some of the conversations we having. We had this same conversation last week also, and our other podcast mate Zane, he couldn't be here, but we were talking about in terms of like our vision and how we each may define success in different ways. And I think that sometimes when you have different definitions of what success is, it's very easy to get lost in whether you're actually successful or not. Because for me, success may be like saying, this is something I wanted to start. I've started it, I've aired it. I feel successful in that. For him or for Rob, success may be, I get thousands of views every time I turn on the camera. But I think it's all relative to who it is. But these are the things that I think that we have to think about when we're involved in anything, because I think that if we don't have a parameter to define what success is, then it's almost like that dangling carrot over our head, and you never have fulfillment around anything because you're constantly chasing something. So it to me is very important to define success and what success is. So like many other people, the many other businesses, the pandemic, is impactful. I'm gonna say, man, if you can get back out there and open up that restaurant, man.
No, we definitely will. And I know once right now what's going on with the cookies is so big. I sat down with a gentleman. I was fortunate enough the other night to sit down with a gentleman who has a product, and his product is in every single Walmart, every single Kroger, every single Target, every single PetSmart, every single Petco. This dude has products all over the world. And I was fortunate enough to get 2 hours and a half with him one-on-one.
Wow.
And I felt like I was talking to Yoda.
Nice.
And one of the big
course.
Yeah. So we are going to open a restaurant. But one thing that he said to me, he said, Ralph, please understand something that's very important. You got to understand that somehow, some way, the stars lined up and you got your cookie company into the biggest retail outlet in the world. Picture yourself, this is his exact words, and I'm going to take this with me so everyone understands it, even as far as your podcast. He says, picture yourself as a flea on the back of an elephant, and you are being carried around by this elephant, but you are a flea. That's how it's in the scheme of everything that's going on. That's how small you and I are, even though I have more success with you. Understand that you somehow got your product into Walmart.
Mhm.
Companies try this for decades,
Yep.
and sometimes never get it done. He says, and this is when he said my philosophy back to me. He says it doesn't matter if you sell one cookie or a million cookies. You got into Walmart, and you need to
That's
take
the
that.
success,
Mhm.
not the money.
Right.
That's right.
And I understand. I understand because I'm honestly, being a musician, I never generated my passion because of money.
Right.
Anybody who looks at money as a passion, then that's their passion. But I have so many other facets to my core that I want to do things that are more valuable as far as forward motion and not necessarily money. That's just me. I'm happy, and I'm not some rich guy, but I'm a happy man, and I'm happy because I'm full of love from family and friends, and just my attitude about life is very enriching and very wealthy. So
Yeah. Right.
it's not the I could go out and buy, a two-door Bentley. You know, that's not that's not my goal. My goal is to enrich my community. And I know that
Spiritual
sounds
wealth.
like some. So that's what I'm saying to you. You're in the world of podcasts, but you're here. And that's where the success lies, in the growth of where you are and how you're going to keep
Mhm.
growing. Whether, like I said, it's one person or 1 million, it's going to be by your content. There was a show, really quick, called Talk Stoop. You ever remember that show? Do you ever seen the show?
Talk soup.
Talk Stoop.
Talk stoop.
No, I never heard
Yeah.
of it.
Yo, when you get a chance, Google it. But this woman decided to start a show from the stairs of her brownstone, a show. And she started interviewing local people and nobody knew. Then the next thing you know, other people are coming on and the show's getting more popular. Now Denzel Washington is sitting there with her,
On
chilling
the stoop.
on the stoop, Talk Stoop. But my point is, it came from just her going, let me start a show right here on my stairs.
Mhm.
And now, you know
She
what I
took the
mean?
risk. She took the risk. Said, "Let me see what happened."
That's why you guys are successful.
And ladies and gentlemen, no ideas original. Thank you, Mr. Ralph Roll, for pulling up, having this conversation with us tonight.
Yo, hold up, Sean. I got one more question before we pull out.
Yeah, bro.
Why? Because while we on business and all that, do you still have your production company? Fat Cat?
Absolutely. Yes, I do. I just
Oh,
produced a group in London called Axnear, and I produced in Northern Italy a group called So Much.
what advice do you have or to give to someone starting up a startup production company?
Uh, for my advice and the people that I know is just be true to your music, and you know,
Craft.
just be honest about what you do.
Right.
Trends come and go. The trends come and go. Just be honest with your music and how you feel about what you write. I mean, that's just how I feel. I never produced or wrote anything that was something trendy, in my opinion. I wrote stuff that I liked and my partners liked, and we just now it's by myself that I have Fat Cat Productions. But I just like producing when I can.
Mm-hmm.
So just be true to yourself. That's it. That's the answer. Just be true to your music. Don't follow too many trends
Right.
because trends come and go.
Be as
You know.
authentic as you can and as
Yes.
original as you can.
And if you get to a point that you can support your life as a producer, just remember where you came from, snatch somebody else up, teach them what you did,
There
and
you
keep it moving.
So before we end, though, Tell us where we can get the cookies from.
You can go to soulsnacks.com. You can that's where we do our classic line. If people order there, we bake to order. So if you order today, that's when we bake and that's when we send it out. Sometimes we do get a little backed up. So if someone ordered on a Tuesday, their order might not go out till Friday because we're a small staff of people, but it's definitely going to be baked fresh. And also, if you go to soulsnacks.com, there's a list of Walmart stores alphabetized by state that will tell you where the cookies are. They gave us 789 stores. Kroger hasn't given us their stores yet, but we should know by sometime in May, and they'll probably be on the shelves in Kroger sometime in July. We just picked up Hilton Hotels, Bed Bath & Beyond, Amazon, and there's one more. Gee, I can't.
You're going to be a full-time baker soon.
Yeah, son.
You're going to see me. I'm going to have like powder all over my face and, chocolate chips falling out my shirt. And,
like Lucy, right? Remember in that
Speed it up.
Thank you, Ralph Rolle. We appreciate you pulling up, man.
Thank you, man.
Thank you, everybody tuning in.
Yeah, stay tuned. I want to give y'all my number, man, so y'all can hit me because I want to know what y'all gonna be doing soon.
Will do.
Cool, man.